Welcome to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio, a stimulating look at culture, current events, faith, and politics from a Christian and conservative point of view. We don't just talk on the radio, we blog too. Check us out at caffeinatedthoughts.com. Now grab a cup of coffee and join us. This is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio.
Hey, welcome to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. Caffeinated Thoughts Radio is brought to you by Myers & Associates, serving the Midwest with industrial maintenance products and services. Call them at 515-795-3676. Myers & Associates, keeping your operations running. This is Shane Vander, Brian Myers. Welcome to another week of Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. Glad to have you, and I'm going to be happy for February 2nd to come because my phone's going to stop ringing. My mailbox is going to be fairly empty. I'm going to stop getting all these spammy fundraising emails.
And you're going to have all that cardboard that you're going to put into the landfill.
Right.
From all the direct mail pieces.
Actually,
right?
Senator Cruz has said on several occasions, he said it makes good, kindling.
Kindling, yes.
Because, some of the stuff, it just combusts.
Hey, my wife will just be happy not to have to see those stupid ads anymore on television.
And, that's something that I'm definitely not going to miss. And I'm just not going to... Iowa and ICE has kind of gone out the window because things are just really intense and everybody, you're behind a candidate. And I've probably been guilty of this too, even though I think I've been playing more defense than offense since the guy I'm supporting is the front runner, kind of. But it just, it'll be good. Well, things get back to normal February 2nd.
The political action committees have really had some nasty ads.
Right.
I mean, They have been slinging the mud this year.
Absolutely. And speaking of slinging the mud, we had a debate in Des Moines, and I got to be president. And you might think, oh, that was cool. No, I was in the media filing center, so I got to watch a TV. So I didn't really get to see anything more than anybody else watching at home, except there's a spin room where you get to, and actually some candidates actually came out. Usually it's just surrogates for the candidates. But I got to talk. I got to get some video of Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee and Rand Paul after their debate, and so you can go to Caffeinated Thoughts, click on the YouTube channel icon. You can check out those videos. We'll probably have them up on the website, maybe by the time you hear this too. Also, got to talk with Congressman Steve King about he's obviously supporting Senator Cruz. So anyway,
speaking of caffeinated thoughts, I have to ask you, are your thoughts caffeinated yet?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is another day in which Mr. Vander has had no sleep.
What? Who needs sleep? Sleep is overrated.
He's standing here in the studio, so that
literally,
so he doesn't fall asleep. And he's been slurping down some Dunkin' Donuts coffee, so I'm hoping.
Well, I'm on the Johnny Fever stuff now.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So you're feeling better.
Yes,
that's good.
Yeah. So we got a lot of audio. We want to talk about this debate.
Right. Let's get into it.
Probably not going to even get through half of this, but let's try. The first thing I want to play, clip one. This is Ted Cruz. He's asked by Megyn Kelly about the elephant not in the room. So.
Senator Cruz, before we get to the issues, let's address the elephant not in the room tonight. Donald Trump has chosen not to attend this evening's presidential debate.
Really?
What message do you think that sends to the voters of Iowa?
I didn't know about that.
Well, Megan, let me say at the outset to the men and women of Iowa, thank you for the incredible hospitality over this past year. By Monday, you will have welcomed me into all 99 counties in Iowa. You will have welcomed my dad to preach at your churches. You will have welcomed Heidi and our girls, Caroline and Catherine, into your homes. And I am so grateful for the diligence, for the seriousness with which the men and women of Iowa approach this process. If I am elected president, keep an eye on the tarmac, because I'll be back. Because Iowa in 2017 will not be flyover country. It will be fly to country.
We were never flyover country. Now, how dare he?
Secondly, let me say, I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
That was just too perfect.
I want to thank everyone here for showing the men and women of Iowa the respect to show up and make the case to the people of this state and the people of the country why each of us believe we would make the best commander-in-chief.
Okay, we can stop it. That was probably one of his best moments because it was engaging, it was funny, not that it was substantive, but he handled that question well.
And it addressed the issue that was on everybody's mind.
Right.
You know?
And you know what? After that, Donald Trump was only mentioned I think it was one other time. Jeb Bush brought him up. But other than that, I mean, it was a pretty Trump-free debate. So I was thrilled. They actually talked about issues.
Well, there was a lot of chatter on Facebook about that, and Twitter as well. I'm sure that people were saying, "Hey, this is a debate of substance."
Right. Now, Ted Cruz didn't have. I would not say this is his best debate. I think the South Carolina debate was a better debate for him, and this is kind of the next clip 2.
What was that?
Two is the reason. One of the reasons why he fell flat. Anyway, we'll just play it so you can hear it for yourself if you haven't.
Note that the last 4 questions have been: Rand, please attack Ted. Marco, please attack Ted. Chris, please attack Ted. Jeb, please attack Ted. Let me just say this.
It is a debate, sir.
Well, no, a debate actually is a policy issue, but I will say this, gosh, if you guys ask one more mean question, I may have to leave the stage. Chris, the most important determination any voter is going to make in this election is who's best prepared to be commander-in-chief, who has the experience, who has the knowledge, who has the judgment.
The rest of the answer was fine.
He blew it.
Because it just. I'm going to take. I mean, I know he was trying to. Again, he was making fun of what Donald Trump did, and actually, it sounded better listening into it the second time than it did. Originally.
Mostly, it sounded like I'm taking my ball and going home.
Right, and there's also an issue with all the booing too. I have to. That was the Rand Paul crowd, by the way. A lot of the booing was from them.
There was a fair number of them there.
But there's a little controversy, and there was not many Ted Cruz supporters in the audience. And I've heard rumors that the Ted Cruz campaign was having a hard time getting tickets compared to other campaigns. I know personally, I was not able to get a ticket. I tried.
Well, if that was true, though, Shane, who's doing the gatekeeping on that?
I tried to get that confirmed, and so but that's just what I heard. And from what I heard from people who are actually in the room, it sounds like, there were not many Ted Cruz supporters there. So I have to wonder, when he normally gets hundreds of people at his rallies, why that was the case.
Oh, that's fishy.
Yep. Anyway, moving on. This was a good exchange. Cruz versus Rubio on illegal immigration. That's clip 3. I'm sorry.
Facts are very, very simple. When that battle was waged, my friend Senator Rubio chose to stand with Barack Obama and Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and support amnesty. And I stood alongside Jeff Sessions and Steve King, and we led the fight against amnesty. And if you want to know who's telling the truth, you should look and ask people like Jeff Sessions and Steve King and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin, all of whom say, as Jeff Sessions said, responding to these false attacks just recently in Alabama, he said, if it wasn't for Ted Cruz, the Gang of 8 Rubio-Schumer bill would have passed, but because Ted stood up and helped lead the effort, millions rose up to kill it.
Senator Rubio, even Chuck Schumer, your co-sponsor of that bill, agrees with Ted Cruz on this.
I understand, but let me respond. I was mentioned in this answer, and so I'm going to respond on this way. This is the lie that Ted's campaign is built on, and Rand touched upon it.
Okay,
that he's the most conservative guy in every.
I want to stop it here because he just Megyn Kelly backed up Ted Cruz. That's true, and even Chuck Schumer said it was true. Well, I understand that, but here I'm going to go on with my attack because he says he's more conservative than everybody else, and I just don't like it. It's mean.
Well, there's an accusation of using the word lie.
Yeah.
I mean,
he didn't know.
Not mischaracterization.
Right.
Not factually incorrect. A lie.
Jeff Sessions said this was the case. Steve King said this was the case. The co-sponsor of the bill, Chuck Schumer, said, yes, Ted Cruz doing this, that was a poison pill amendment. On what basis can we call this a lie? We can't. Okay, moving on. This was not one of Rubio's best debates, and I normally give him props for debates. Most of the debate was fine for him, with the exception of the immigration discussion, and I think he got his head handed to him when he was pushed on amnesty. Go ahead and play a little bit of clip for it. It's a longer clip. We probably won't play all of it.
2 years of getting elected, you were co-sponsoring legislation to create a path to citizenship. In your words, amnesty. Haven't you already proven that you cannot be trusted on this issue?
No, because if you look at the quote, and it's very specific, and it says blanket amnesty. I do not support blanket amnesty.
But you went on from
I do not support amnesty.
You said more than that, sir.
No, I said I do not support blanket legalization.
You said earned path to citizenship is basically code for amnesty. You supported earned path to citizenship.
It absolutely has been. And at the time, in the context of that, was in 2009 and 2010, where the last effort for legalization was an effort done in the Senate. It was an effort led by several people that provided almost an instant path with very little obstacles moving forward. What I've always said is this issue does need to be solved. They've been talking about this issue for 30 years, and nothing ever happens. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to deal with it when I am president. Number one, we're going to keep ISIS out of America. If we don't know who you are or why you're coming, you will not get into the United States.
Right.
Number two, we are going to enforce our immigration laws. I am the son and the grandson of immigrants, and I know that securing our borders is not anti-immigrant, and we will do it. We will hire 20,000 new border agents instead of 20,000 new IRS agents.
That was a good line.
We will finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls our nation needs.
Yeah.
We'll have mandatory E-Verify, a mandatory entry-exit tracking system. And until all of that is in place and all of that is working and we can prove to the people of this country that illegal immigration is under control, nothing else is going to happen. We are not going to round up and deport 12 million people, but we're not going to go around handing out citizenship cards either. There will be a process. We will see what the American people are willing to support, but it will not be unconstitutional executive orders like the ones Barack Obama has forced on.
Governor Bush, do you agree that Senator Rubio has not reversed himself on his immigration promise?
Well, I'm kind of confused because he was the sponsor of the Gang of Eight bill that did require a bunch of thresholds, but ultimately allowed for citizenship over an extended period of time. I mean, that's a fact. And he asked me to support that. And I supported him because I think people, when you're elected, you need to do things. And he led the charge to finally fix this immigration problem that has existed now for, as Marco says, for 30 years. And then he cut and run because it wasn't popular amongst conservatives, I guess. Here's what I believe.
Okay,
and I wrote
we could stop there. Most of what Marco Rubio's immigration plan as it is today, I could support. I think it's pretty well thought out. By the way, you're listening to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio on the Truth Network, 99.3 FM.
No, I agree.
Brian, you got thoughts on?
Well, just what he said there.
Yeah.
In rebuttal to Megyn Kelly was very good.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm with you on that point.
Yeah. So that wasn't it. It was just, but it was, well, right. Yeah. Okay. You were for amnesty. Well, no, and he was trying to nuance it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, let's just gloss over what I said in the past. And then Jeb Bush jumps in. Well, I'm confused. Yeah. It's like, did Jeb Bush just win an exchange with Marco Rubio? I think he did. Not necessarily on substance, but on style. So anyway, that was interesting. And he was not allowed to get away with, hey, yeah, you did support amnesty in 2008.
Sometimes, and I don't know why politicians don't understand this, but sometimes I think
or 2013.
It would do them so much good if they would just say, you know what? I did X, Y, and Z a few years ago, or I thought X, Y, Z a few years ago.
Right.
I was wrong. I have changed my mind.
You know, he did that at CPAC. He actually said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have gotten behind that bill. Like, why can't you just do that during the debate? Let's, okay.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that Senator Cruz, okay, that was a good legislative tactic. Well done. You got your mission accomplished. Senator Rubio, okay, we understand you've changed your mind. And by the way, we need to have allowances for people to legitimately change their mind. I think so. Sometimes we have too much of this flip-flopping. I know sometimes it is opportunistic, and we do need to, watch out for that. But some people do legitimately change their mind, or they get rebuked by the public, and they realize, you know what? Okay, I need, obviously my constituents aren't with me, and I need to rethink that.
Yep.
We should want our elected officials to do that.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to see. I wish I saw him do that as a senator before. I think what the problem is, it's like he wasn't necessarily leading on doing this as a senator before he ran for president. I think maybe it would have been a little more legitimate, or people would accept it better if that were the case.
We got time for at least one more short clip.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Christie on Washington.
I want to ask the people in the audience. Like, I'm standing here. I watched the video of Senator Cruz. I watched the video of Senator Rubio. I heard what they said. And this is why you need to send someone from outside of Washington to Washington. I feel like I need a Washington to English dictionary converter, right? I mean,
that was pretty funny.
They both said. I saw it on the video. And the fact is, this is what makes a difference when you're a governor. You can change your mind. Ted could change his mind. Marco could change his mind. It's perfectly legal in this country to change your mind. But when you're a governor, you have to admit it. You can't hide behind parliamentary tricks. That's the difference, and that's the kind of leader we need in the White House. Stop the Washington Bull, and let's get things done.
All right. Okay, but I just challenge Governor Christie to get off his high horse, because there's plenty of bull that governors hide behind all the time. We see
plenty of bull coming out of New Jersey, I can tell you that.
Just to remind him about last of the debate where he said, we're getting rid of Common Core, and no. Just as an example. Anyway, the debate was interesting. I know it's all online, so if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to do so. This is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. We'll be back with U.S. Senator Ted Cruz.
Hi, this is Brian Myers of Myers & Associates. If you're involved in maintenance at a manufacturing plant, you know how costly it can be when a machine goes down. And if the reason that machine went down is because the electronic controls on it failed, it can really be problematic if those electronics are obsolete. Well, not to worry. We represent Providence Industrial Electronics Repair, and they can get your machine up and running in no time. They repair boards, drives, servo motors, light curtains, you name it. So if you need industrial electronics repaired at your plant, or if you have other industrial maintenance needs, give me a call at 515-490-2640. That's Myers & Associates, 515-490-2640. Myers & Associates, keeping your operations running.
And welcome back to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. Caffeinated Thoughts Radio is brought to you in part by Travis Riswold of Modern Woodmen of America. Call Travis at 515-8883-0029, and he can help you find the life insurance you need. So we have a very special guest on the line with us, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Welcome to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio, Senator Cruz.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's great to join you.
So you had a debate. You made your closing argument to Iowans before we caucus on Monday. What are your feelings about how the race is going thus far?
Well, I'm very, very encouraged where we are. What we're seeing is conservatives uniting behind our campaign. That has been happening steadily and systematically for months now. And I think the reason is that everyone understands the stakes of this election. Our country is in crisis. Every one of us is afraid of what kind of country we're leaving to our kids. Heidi and I have 2 little girls, and we don't want to leave them a country mired in debt, with our constitutional liberties stripped away, with our families and values undermined by the federal government. And the frustration so many of us feel is we've been burned by politicians over and over and over again. We keep winning elections, and then the people we elect don't do what they said. And we cannot get burned again because the stakes are too high. And I think the reason that conservatives are uniting behind our campaign, the reason that Iowa conservatives like Congressman Steve King and Bob Vander and over 150 pastors across this state have come together, the reason why leaders like Dr. James Dobson and Tony Perkins and so many other national conservative leaders have come behind this campaign, it is that we are looking for a consistent conservative, a proven conservative, someone who we know will defend life, will defend marriage, will defend religious liberty, will defend the Constitution. And if conservatives unite, we will win.
Now, during this debate, people were going at you, both barrels unloading. Are these debates helpful, do you think, for Iowans, or have they become too contentious?
Oh, sure. No, I think the debates are quite helpful. I think last night it was a serious mistake for Donald Trump not to attend. I think it demonstrated a lack of respect for the men and women of Iowa. This is a job interview, and if anyone was applying to work for the two of you and they called you up and told you, I'm not willing to show up for the job interview, you wouldn't hire them. And I think the reason Donald didn't show up was not that he was afraid of Megyn Kelly. It was that he was afraid of the scrutiny on his record. He was afraid of having to answer hard questions about the fact that for 60 years he supported partial birth abortion, about the fact that he supported President Obama's bailout of the big banks under TARP. He supported President Obama's stimulus, and his health care plan is the same as Bernie Sanders. It is government-controlled, socialized health care. It is a Hillary care and Obamacare expanded, and he didn't want to answer those questions. And I think that I believe that the only way to win in the state of Iowa is to show the humility to stand in front of the men and women of Iowa and to answer their questions, to look them in the eyes. On Monday, we will complete the full Grassley. We will have gone to all 99 counties in Iowa, stood in front of the men and women of Iowa, and answered their questions. And I think that is the Iowa way. It's the respect that the people of this state are owed. And I believe Donald skipping the debate last night was a serious mistake.
How would you grade your debate performance last night, Senator Cruz?
I thought it was a good debate. I thought there was clear contrast. I thought it helped the voters here in Iowa make their decision. Number one, the most important decision any of us have to make is who is best prepared to be commander-in-chief, who has the knowledge and experience and temperament and judgment and clarity of vision and strength of resolve to keep this country safe, to identify our enemies and to utterly and completely destroy them, to destroy ISIS, to destroy radical Islamic terrorists. I think, secondly, the voters are tired of being burned. I thought the exchanges, for example, on immigration were very, very important. It became abundantly clear to the voters of Iowa that Marco Rubio is a good guy. He's charming. He's smooth. But when he ran for Senate in Florida, he promised the men and women of Iowa, if you vote for me, I will lead the fight against amnesty. I promised the same thing in Texas. We made the identical promises to the voters. We both came to Washington, and we made a very different decision. Marco chose to go with the career politicians in Washington and to stand with Barack Obama and Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and lead the fight for the Rubio-Schumer amnesty bill. And I chose to stand with Jeff Sessions and Iowa's own Steve King leading the fight against amnesty, standing with millions of Americans. And together we defeated amnesty. I think that moment of clarity was very important because we understand the stakes are too high. We can't get burned again. And the only way to avoid getting burned again is to follow the biblical admonition. You shall know them by their fruits.
Right. Right. One thing during the undercard debate, you were kind of brought up by Rick Santorum, and this is something I'm hearing a lot from on the ground, is there's a difference of opinion on the marriage issue. Some are concerned about they see Senator Cruz is for the word the phrase they use is for 50 definitions of marriage rather than a national definition. What's your position on marriage? Are you against the national definition, or do you just prefer states' rights? I'd like to clear this up for some of our listeners.
Well, sure. Listen, on marriage, I strongly support traditional marriage as the union of one man and one woman. That has been the definition of marriage long before the U.S. Supreme Court, long before there was the United States of America. For millennia,
Right.
Marriage has been ordained by God as the union of one man and one woman, meant to reflect the relationship between Christ and the church, and that relationship is not something that 5 unelected judges have the power to change. Courts do not make law, and so the Supreme Court's decision was fundamentally wrong. Now, what should we do in response to it? I believe we should fight it on every front using every tool we can.
Okay.
That is why I've introduced a constitutional amendment to restore the authority of state legislatures to define marriage as the union of one man and one woman. That is also why I've introduced legislation stripping the federal courts of jurisdiction over challenges to marriage, stripping the Supreme Court. I'll note Steve King introduced the same legislation. It was interesting because he and I didn't talk about it. We both just filed the same legislation, then talked afterwards and laughed and said, well, when you're operating from the same basic text, the Constitution and the Bible, you arrive at the same answers, which are what are the tools Congress has to rein in lawlessness, and stripping the court of jurisdictions is one of them.
Right.
And it's also why, in the wake of this lawless gay marriage decision, that I have called for a constitutional amendment imposing periodic judicial retention elections on Supreme Court justices, just like here in Iowa, where millions of Iowans rose up and threw out 3 Supreme Court justices who similarly engaged in lawlessness. I think if the Supreme Court justices are going to ignore the Constitution, we have to hold them accountable.
Right. You're listening to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio on the Truth Network, 99.3 FM. This is Shane Vander with Brian Myers, and on the line we have U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, if Congress passed, I know as far as a constitutional amendment, the president doesn't have veto power over that, but if Congress passed a federal definition of marriage, would you oppose it?
I would not oppose it, but that being said, there are not the votes to get it done. It's not remotely close. Let me tell you how bad it is in Congress. My amendment to preserve the authority of state legislatures to define marriage, we couldn't get a majority of members of the Senate to support that amendment. And the reason is most of the establishment Republicans have abandoned this marriage fight. You know, one of the stunning differences we've seen is in the wake of the Supreme Court's gay marriage decision, that was what Reagan would call a time for choosing, where every candidate could decide where he or she stood. And when that decision came down, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and Hillary Clinton all said the same thing. They all said, this decision is settled, it's the law of the land, we must accept it and move on. I think there's something profoundly wrong when Republican candidates for president are giving up on marriage or refusing to defend marriage. And my view is exactly the opposite, that it was illegitimate, it was wrong, it was fundamentally unconstitutional, and it will not stand. And that's why the National Organization of Marriage has endorsed my campaign. That's why Dr. James Dobson has endorsed my campaign. That's why Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council has endorsed my campaign, and Gary Bauer and Bob Vander and Steve King, because all of them recognize that among the leading Republican candidates for president, that no one has been more vigorous and consistent defending marriage, defending life, and defending religious liberty than I have, and I've got a proven track record on doing so.
Right, and for full disclosure, that's why I endorsed your campaign as well.
And Shane, you're a man of wisdom and judgment in that regard.
Don't get too carried away here, Senator.
This is going to go to my head.
But let me just clarify, though. The point here, though, Senator, is that in theory you have no problem with addressing the marriage issue at the federal level, in theory. Correct?
We don't have the votes.
Right, but theoretically, you don't have a principial problem with it.
I don't have a problem in principle, although I would note it would take a constitutional amendment because under the Constitution, marriage is a question for the states. It is not the federal government doesn't have any business, and in over 200 years, the federal government has not been involved in defining marriage until the Supreme Court decided to usurp the authority of the people.
Right. Well, yeah, the whole 50 definitions of marriage things, like, well, that's always, the potential's always existed for that ever since the government started issuing marriage licenses.
And by the way, we've had 50 definitions of marriage. So in some states, people can get married at 17. In other states, they can get married at 16 or 15, and it varies state by state. And that's been the way the United States of America has been since the country was founded.
Let's pivot a little bit. We got about 3 minutes left. You've been an advocate for religious freedom.
Yes.
What are some things that you would do as president on day one to help protect religious liberty?
Well, religious liberty has been a lifelong passion of mine. For over 2 decades, I have been fighting to defend religious liberty. Going back to when I was Solicitor General of Texas, the chief lawyer for the state, in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, we defended the Ten Commandments monument that stands on the state capitol grounds, and we went to the Supreme Court, and we won 5-4. We defended the Pledge of Allegiance, the words, "One nation under God." We went to the Supreme Court, we won unanimously. And I was very proud to defend over 3 million veterans, defending the Mojave Desert Veterans Memorial, a lone white Latin cross erected to honor the men and women who gave their lives in World War I. We went to the Supreme Court and won 5-4. This is a life passion for me. And you asked what I would do on the first day in office. I pledged to do 5 things on the first day in office. The first thing I intend to do is to rescind every single illegal and unconstitutional executive action taken by Barack Obama. The second thing I intend to do is instruct the U.S. Department of Justice to open an investigation into Planned Parenthood and to prosecute any and all criminal violations by that organization. The third thing I intend to do, going directly to your question, is instruct the Department of Justice and the IRS and every other federal agency that the persecution of religious liberty ends today. The fourth thing I intend to do is rip to shreds this catastrophic Iranian nuclear deal. And the fifth thing I intend to do on the first day in office is begin the process of moving the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, the once and eternal capital of Israel.
I'm getting texts from your communications director saying you need to go. So I don't want to get you in trouble.
We got less than a minute anyway.
Yeah, so people can find out more if they go to tedcruz.org, correct?
tedcruz.org, and we are finishing up the bus tour. We are crisscrossing the state of Iowa on Monday. We will have completed the full Grassley in all 99 counties. So if you want to come out and join us, or if you want to volunteer online or get more information, tedcruz.org is where you can do all of that.
Senator Cruz, thank you so much for coming on Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
To our listeners, I'd like to encourage you, make sure you get out on Monday night, 7 o'clock. Find out where your precinct location is and caucus. This is our civic duty. I encourage you to get involved. This is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, this is Brian Myers. When I needed a better life insurance plan, I found it with Travis Risvold of Modern Woodmen of America. When I first met Travis, he wasn't like some other life insurance agents that can be pushy and try to get you to buy something. Travis just made himself available to me. That was it. He told me to let him know if and when I needed anything, and he stayed in touch. When the day came and I did need to make some changes with my life insurance, Travis met with me and walked me through several options so I could make an informed decision. Ultimately, it was the best decision for my situation. So if you need a better or the best life insurance plan for you, call my friend Travis Risvold with Modern Woodmen. His number's 515-883-0029. Travis Risvold with Modern Woodmen. He can help you find the life insurance you need. Call him at 515-883-0029.
Welcome to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio, a stimulating look at culture, current events, faith, and politics from a Christian and conservative point of view. We don't just talk on the radio, we blog too. Check us out at caffeinatedthoughts.com. Now grab a cup of coffee and join us. This is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. Caffeinated Thoughts Radio is brought to you in part by Crosswalk Ministries with Scott Owen, who offers biblical counseling and conciliation. Give him a call at 515-292-7141 or go to crosswalkcounseling.org. Almost had a hard time getting that out. Crosswalkcounseling.org.
I played basketball this morning with Scott Owen.
Did you?
Yeah, Scott is a great guy.
Does he give you pro bono counseling as you play?
I definitely need it.
Okay. I would try to work that out. It's like, hey, come on.
He's Scott Owen's a good guy. So, all right. We have now come to our news rundown, otherwise known as News You Can Use.
Oh.
And right out of the gate, Planned Parenthood exonerated by Texas grand jury. A Houston grand jury investigating criminal allegations against Planned Parenthood stemming from a series of undercover videos on Monday instead indicted 2 of the anti-abortion activists who shot the footage. In a stunning turn of events, the grand jury declined to indict officials from the abortion provider and instead handed up a felony charge of tampering with a government record against Center for Medical Progress founder David, is it Deladen?
Yeah, I think so.
David Deladen and center employee Sandra Merritt. Deladen was also charged with a misdemeanor count related to purchasing human organs. Some irony there.
Yeah, just a tad.
Okay. Quote, "We were called upon to investigate allegations of criminal conduct by Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast," Harris County District Attorney Devon Anderson said. "As I stated at the outset of this investigation, we must go where the evidence leads us. All the evidence uncovered in the course of this investigation was presented to the grand jury. I respect their decision on this difficult case."
They did not vote on charges for Planned Parenthood, by the way. So I call bunk on that.
Again, I agree. I'm at a loss to know how a grand jury can
flip.
I mean,
they weren't supposed to investigate Center for Medical Progress.
Yeah, none of this made any sense. Obviously, we're not lawyers, okay, but from what we understand about how grand juries operate, this didn't make any sense to me.
Right. Yeah, I was like, who? Okay. Anyway, I'm wondering, who initially brought the charges for them to indict on? Who's the one who decided we're gonna push this? Supposedly, I think the tampering with government records was a false ID.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was.
And then, as far as the purchasing human organ, I don't know what that. If that was the case, if they're being charged with that, why isn't Planned Parenthood being charged too?
Why is the seller being charged also?
Exactly.
So that doesn't make any sense.
There's something that just didn't add up there. But look, at the end of the day, and this is what I've been telling people, the videos, if you care to watch them,
right?
The videos show strong evidence for violations of 2 federal laws.
Right. Right.
And if we had a real Department of Justice,
right,
somebody at the DOJ that actually cared, these people should have been prosecuted under federal law a long time ago. There is some serious evidence here that 2 federal laws have been violated. The first is you're not supposed to be able to sell human organs for profit. And this excuse that Planned Parenthood's been making that this is just to cover our costs, a good prosecutor, I think, could shred that in a moment.
Right.
And the other federal law is that you can't extract these parts, if I can use that word, in such a fashion as keeps their value high.
You can't change
for resale.
Yeah, you can't change the method of abortion in order to do that.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So
I hesitate to even use the language I just used, but
I know
you get the idea.
It's icky. It's hard to talk about. But yeah, more on this. I'm pretty confident that they're going to have a pretty good defense, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of organizations saying we will volunteer to take your case.
I would like to think we haven't heard the end of this, because, like I say, if we had a real Department of Justice at the federal level, I think we would see some prosecution, certainly an investigation.
Well, considering they haven't indicted Hillary Clinton yet, I'm like, how much... Well,
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, it's like how much... Yeah, we could go on and on.
All right. But let's turn. Speaking
of
good news. Speaking of Planned Parenthood, a Planned Parenthood branch in Dubuque, Iowa, will be closing.
Yay!
Little music there. Okay. Dubuque, Iowa. This is from Caffeinated Thoughts. You've heard of those guys. Today, Planned Parenthood of the Heartland announced its plans to close its Dubuque Center in the near future. Dubuque County Right to Life, Inc. calls this very good news. Today marks a victory for women and their unborn children in eastern Iowa, says Marion Bowrick, Executive Director of Dubuque County Right to Life. For nearly 8 years, Dubuque County Right to Life, Inc.'s faithful and loyal picketers have stood in opposition to Planned Parenthood for every hour of operation in Dubuque. Today, we take a moment to celebrate the fruit of this labor and the spreading of a more just society for every human person, beginning at conception until natural death.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah, we always like to celebrate a little bit, Caffeinated Thoughts Radio, when a PP location shuts down.
Anytime I hear about an abortion clinic closing down in Iowa, we're going to have a story on it.
Okay, turning now to some difficult news out of Burns, Oregon. Several arrested in an Oregon shootout, and one man is killed. That's according to AP. Federal and state law officers arrested the leaders of an armed group occupying a national wildlife refuge during a traffic stop along a highway in Oregon's frozen high country that prompted gunfire and left one man dead. Militant leader Ammon Bundy and his followers were reportedly heading to a community meeting at the Senior Center Tuesday in John Day, it's apparently the name of a city, about 70 miles north of Burns, to address local residents to discuss their views on federal management of public lands. In a statement, the FBI and the Oregon State Police said agents had made a total of 8 arrests, including Ammon Bundy. Oregon State Police confirmed that its troopers were involved in the traffic stop shooting. One of those arrested, described only as a man, suffered non-life-threatening wounds, the agencies said. Another man who was subject of a federal probable cause arrest was killed, they said.
Yeah, and it was actually their spokesperson, was it later identified.
Yeah.
And
the agency said that they would not release further information pending identification by the medical examiner, which I assume now has happened.
What I'm curious about is whether or not there's still occupation going on, or is this clean house?
There's something 4 left, something in the neighborhood 4 left.
And and basically what happened is they had free access between the federal the building that they're occupying and these towns, and the police, law enforcement got wind of this and they decided to make a traffic stop. I don't agree with what they're doing per se. There's a lot of dynamics involved in that.
Have you seen the video?
Which video?
There's aerial video of the stop and the shooting.
Right. No, I have not.
Yeah.
I think it's tragic. I don't think it needed to come to a loss of life.
Yeah. The authorities released that video, I believe, just last night, wasn't it, Ron?
I'll have to take a look.
Anyway, at first, you see this guy, I can't remember his name, Lavoie something or other.
Yeah, and I don't remember the last name.
He gets out of the van, his hands are out.
Right.
And then he reaches down and he's shot. So now
they confirmed he did have a 9mm in that pocket.
And it was loaded.
Yep.
So am I going to rush to judgment and say the guy got murdered? No.
I'm not saying the police acted inappropriately at the stop.
I know you
I'm just not sure they needed to take action at that moment. They could have waited and perhaps another time. Who knows? I don't want to second guess them. It's a tough situation.
No, but it's another situation that could have been avoided, and I'm deeply sorry about the tragedy and the loss of life.
Yeah, this is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. We'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, you do that all the time. These were not the words I expected to hear when I shared with my college roommate that I had hurt someone earlier that day. I'm Scott Owen with Crosswalk Ministries of Central Iowa, and it's time to pause for peace. We know we're not perfect, but it is unsettling when someone brings into focus one of our blind spots. Blind spots, like the log in your eye of Matthew 7, 3-5, should be dealt with as soon as you find them. I immediately took those biting words to heart, followed up on an example he cited, and purposed from that point on to use my words to heal rather than to hurt. Yes, it was hard to hear those unflattering words from my friend. However, as the scriptures say, faithful are the wounds of a friend. for those types of wounds lead to long-lasting healing. To get help with your blind spot, contact us at 515-635-5465 or online at crosswalkcounseling.org.
And welcome back to Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. Hey, did you know we have this little thing called a blog that we do? Be sure, that's great you're listening to us right now on the radio, but be sure to check out caffeinatedthoughts.com.
What's that?
Caffeinatedthoughts.com.
Say that again.
And that's caffeinatedthoughts.com because we have awesome commentary, especially the ones I write. News?
Oh, boy.
No modesty there, eh?
Okay,
boy.
Maybe slightly less than awesome.
See, what Senator Cruz said earlier has gone to his head. We knew it was going to happen.
Yep, that's so true. And also, make sure you like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/CAFF, CAFF, Thoughts. Twitter, follow us on Twitter, same deal, twitter.com/CAFF, CAFF, Thoughts. We'd really appreciate it. Just stay in touch with us.
And now we've come to my favorite part of the show. We're about to share a story that is truly unbelievable. Yet, you know it must be true because...
You can't make this stuff up.
All right, this is from Paris. This is according to UPI. A celebrity photographer said a photo sold to a European businessman for $1.08 million. Let me repeat that. $1.08 million. This did not portray any famous figures. Rather, it was a photograph of a potato.
I love me some
spuds.
Kevin Abosh, 46, an Irish...
There you go, right there.
No irony there.
An Irish photographer known for his portraits, known for his portraits of famous subjects, including Steven Spielberg, said a European businessman spotted potato number 346. Apparently that's the title of the photograph. He spotted it hanging in his Paris apartment last year and purchased the print for $1.08 million, which is 1 million euros. Abosh, who normally charges up to $500,000 for a portrait, said the sale was the biggest of his career.
No doubt.
It's like...
The photographer said he snapped a photo of an organic Irish potato in 2010 and made 3 prints. One for a Serbian museum's got this thing too.
Evidently.
Oh boy. And one he sold, undoubtedly not for $1 million, and one he kept for his own collection. I see commonalities between humans and potatoes that speak to our relationship as individuals within a collective species, Abosh told the Irish Times. Generally, the life of a harvested potato is violent and taken for granted. I use the potato as a proxy for the ontological study of the human experience.
Brain cells that I'm never going to be able to get back again.
Yes. I wonder if it was a handsome potato.
I kept on thinking Mr. Potato Head when he was talking about the similarities.
Abosh's potato picture would be the 15th most expensive photo ever sold if this price is verified.
Wow.
I can't believe anybody would buy a picture of... First of all, why would you spend 1.08 or 1 million euros on a
picture?
Any picture, let alone picture of a potato.
Oh, but listen to this guy.
That must have been an awesome potato.
What is this guy smoking, okay? I see commonalities between humans and potatoes that speak to our relationship as individuals within a collective
I bet you
species.
in his house he's got some pictures of some weed.
I use the potato as a proxy for the ontological study of the human experience.
They both have eyes, so I don't know.
Send your "you can't make this stuff up" ideas to story@caffeinatedthoughts.com, and we'll give you the credit or the blame if we use your suggestion on the show.
I blame Brian for this story.
No more potatoes, folks.
This is Caffeinated Thoughts Radio. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.